This is the video I wish I had to become a digital nomad sooner. Granted, I started in 2021 and before that was COVID, so in theory, start earlier. My dream has been always to travel the world. The problem is when I started working in corporate, because I am Canadian, I only had 2 weeks vacation. So I was dedicated to finding a way to be able to work for myself so I could start to travel. And I actually did start last year and did Mexico, Argentina, a few cities in the US, and now I am working in Southeast Asia for this year. Being a digital nomad means you are working and traveling. It's different from just traveling. So that means you need to get work that does not require your presence. And there are two options here. The first one is finding a full-time job that allows you to work remotely. And since COVID, this has been more easy now than ever. Prior to 2020, a lot of places did not want you to work remotely. Versus after, they've seen what we can do remotely. We've been doing it for 2 years, and a lot of jobs have stayed remote. While some have required you, yes, to go back into the office, you have a stance now proving that you are able to work efficiently while you're not in the office. If you do have a job that actually does require your presence, maybe it's time to start learning another skill. Coding, graphic design, UX, UI. I worked in experiential marketing, and I actually took night courses to learn digital marketing so that I could get a job that I could be more remote for. In experiential marketing, I had to keep showing up to the locations versus after I got my digital marketing career, I was able to work from wherever. You can take a course. You can take night classes like I did. You can start learning on YouTube and start building up a portfolio so that you can slowly make your way to transitioning to a career that is more location independent. Keep in mind, though, that if you are doing this, you're probably going to have to stay traveling in places that have similar time zones. I know some friends who are currently working at their Eastern time hours while they're here in Asia, which is pretty difficult. They're working 8 p.m. to like 5 a.m., which can be kind of hard, especially when you want to enjoy your vacation. Last year when I was working from Mexico, before I quit my job, I actually still did have my 9 to 5, but the hours were the exact same because I just moved south, so it made it super easy. And then I was still able to go enjoy Mexico after 5 and on the weekends. Or option number 2, you can start finding ways to make your own money. This is more preferable because then you can work on your own hours. You can switch up your time zone so you're pretty much free to go anywhere in the world. Like right now for me, because I am in Thailand, I just work the mornings and then sometimes I work the afternoons. Sometimes I'll work on the weekends and take a half day. I can work any of the hours that I want, and I don't usually have to be up at 2 a.m. unless I have a call, which anyway, I try to schedule earlier on in my day so that I'm not waking up at ungodly hours. So then let's go into ways that you can make your own money. We talked earlier about taking night classes or courses or just learning on YouTube and building a portfolio so you could find remote jobs. But how about you just remote freelance? There's places like Fiverr and Upwork where you can post your portfolio and people can find you and they can hire you based on a job rate. So that way you don't really have a boss. You're still working for yourself and you're still implementing these skills that you learned, but you are making the money for yourself. On top of freelancing, you can also do things like content creation. YouTube pays out pretty well and opens the doors for many different opportunities. You can start learning drop shipping. You can start learning digital downloads. You can learn print on demand, which is how I was able to quit my job. I've met people who on Fiverr sell digital illustrations for kids' books. I know someone who is traveling around just doing voiceovers, like radio commercials or just commercial voiceovers. He was making a full-time living and traveling off that. I've met someone who was doing affiliate marketing, and that was their job while they traveled. You can watch my video on 10 proven side hustles to find out some other ways or get some ideas on how you can start making money for yourself. And while it is great to start traveling while already making your own income, that is not a necessity. Being a digital nomad does not mean that you're already raking it in. You're already a big, successful entrepreneur. For many people, it is where they start their business. And why? Because it is so much cheaper to live, ideally, maybe somewhere in Southeast Asia or in South America that does not have a high cost of living, so that you're not constantly dishing out thousands a month to keep living in your expensive city. If you do have an expensive city like I did, Toronto, instead you could be paying a fourth to live and live lavishly in another country while still building up your income streams so that the pressure isn't as high. If you do this, though, it is very, very important that you are wrapping up your financial responsibilities at home. If you are paying rent somewhere, it's probably best to sublease it, or maybe just get rid of your rent if you're planning to travel for a long time. Otherwise, you're just double paying for things, which makes it even more stressful if you end up leaving your job to try to start your own business. And another thing to highlight is if you are doing this type of traveling, you are going somewhere cheap and you are starting your own business, this is not the type of travel where every single day you are taking a tour. You're taking a safari tour. You're going out hiking. You're going to fancy food. This is where you get up and you plant somewhere, usually for a month or two. I at least do a month, usually 2 months if I like the location. And I only explore on the weekends. On the weekdays, I'm still working till about 5, or sometimes I'll take off the afternoon and then work the night times. And then at night, I'm just exploring the local area, which for me, I think is a lot more enjoyable than the up and go travel. I feel like I live here. I feel like I'm immersed in the culture because I'm going where the locals go. I'm living like the locals. And instead of a traveler, you feel like you're just more part of where you are. I'd maybe also suggest learning these skills that you're going to need starting this business, maybe before you quit your job. If you are planning to do this type of travel where you quit and start your business, maybe take a course beforehand or that class beforehand. That way you're spending the money while you're still making the 9 to 5 money, and then you are growing your business while you are here. This isn't a necessity, but if you are a little bit more risk adverse and you don't want to be spending the extra money for a course because you think it'll hurt if you don't have the income coming, this will help you learn and then start implementing much faster when you are actually traveling. Making an online income is going to require a lot of work. It's probably not going to pay off right away. This is why you're going to go stay somewhere cheap to get started. Cheap does not mean worse. I really like the cheap spots. I'm living in Chiang Mai right now. Food is about $4 Canadian, so maybe like $3 US. Living here is a fourth, maybe a fifth of what I pay back in Canada. So it's much easier here and it is beautiful. But you are going to need to be putting in the work because, again, you're not traveling, you are digital nomading. And this is going to be a lot harder to do if you are traveling with people who are not traveling the same way as you. I started the Southeast Asia trip with some friends and it was so much fun, but it was extremely distracting when I wanted to do work because they were always going out and doing hikes every day and I wanted to be there. And I did give up a lot of work days to go travel with them, which was such a fun experience, but not the type of travel that I'm looking to do long term. So it was great for a short term period. We had lots of fun, but a long term, you should be traveling with people who have the same ideals in mind. Maybe they're also starting their business. Maybe they already have a business, or you need to be going alone. And going alone can be very scary, but it is doable and it is so rewarding. If you travel to places that have a high density of digital nomads, like Bali, like Thailand, like Mexico, like Colombia, like Guatemala, and you go to where there's other digital nomads, you are guaranteed to make people stay in co-living houses or the co-living workplaces. Go to co-works. Pretty much every single co-work you'll find usually has a type of weekly event where you all get to know each other. And then there's also WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups where you can connect with people even before you go so that you can meet up with them when they're there. In Bali, there was even tons of free seminars that teach you about Amazon FBA, print on demand, networking, that you could just show up, meet people, and learn how to start your own business. A great resource if you're planning to travel to Southeast Asia, which I have been loving, is using nomio.io. Once you log in, you're going to see tons of different meetups that you can join, and a lot of them are digital nomad focused. And they also have a list of different WhatsApp groups for different locations. So they had a Bali meetup group, a Bali content creator group, they had a Bali drop shipping group, tons of those. And they also had like Chiang Mai WhatsApp groups. They had different parts in Bali, so like Canggu or Uluwatu, they had those. So there was tons of groups where I could meet people before I was there and during my stay. I went to a bunch of the e-commerce meetups and the content creator meetups, and I met some amazing people doing amazing, inspiring things that I would have never met back home, and I would have never just met randomly. They say you are the product of people around you. So if you're surrounded by digital nomads, I bet you're probably going to become a successful digital nomad. You're going to learn so much from these people and learn so much about alternative lifestyles. But if you are more risk averse and you're not willing to quit your job just yet, and you don't have a job that you are able to work remotely, then how about asking for an extended leave of absence? This is something I've done twice now when I was working in different jobs. My first job, I've been working there for about 2 years, and I asked if I could take an unpaid 2 months off, and I let them pick my 2 months. I picked the months that were the least busy, that would cause the least issues, and I did a trip traveling around. At that time, I wasn't really thinking about building my own income. I just wanted to travel. I was like 21. I was just having a fun time. But that would have been an amazing time to take to also start trying to build up my own income streams, because then I knew I had something to come back to. So I wasn't that desperate for money, but if I was desperate to leave my job, that would be the perfect time to start learning the skills to be able to do so. I know this can be hard to ask. It's very hard to tell a job, hey, can I leave for 2 months and travel the world? But I was very lucky to have 2 awesome bosses. I was younger. They understood my want to travel, my want to keep me. I didn't do it with just a few months after starting working there. I worked at both places for about at least 1 to 2 years before asking. The worst they can say is no, and then you can make a better decision from there. They're not going to fire you for asking, so it does not hurt to ask. And then maybe if you're like me, I had told myself if my boss said no, I was just going to quit then and there and start to travel, because at that point, I was super into travel. But again, luckily, they said yes to me. But if you have to quit and start to travel, and maybe you give yourself 6 months to build up something while you're traveling, worst case scenario, what's going to happen? You're going to come back with tons of skills, tons of brand new life experiences, inspiring people met. And then maybe you have to go look for another job in the same field that you had before. And I get it, not for every single career, but for many, many careers out there, you're probably going to find another one. Many entrepreneurs that I know started while traveling because it sparked the need for them to be able to continue traveling and making money. And they were able to learn so much from the people that they met. So if you are on the fence about it, if this is something that is calling to you, I hope that this video was inspiration for you to take that leap.